Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week and day 5 of 7 days of free webinars, especially tailored for rural Australia. This afternoon's topic is how collaboration and cooperatives can help you achieve your business goals. As usual, I have quite a few case studies for you, and our special guest today is Ann Durie from the award-winning, I have to add, Broadway on Bakery on Broadway in Wycheproof. For those of you on social media, the hashtag is GEW 2017, and my Twitter handle is @KerryWords, or on Facebook you can find my page on Rural Entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, just in case you haven't come across me before, I'm Kerry Anderson and I was raised in a small business in a rural town, and I have owned a few businesses myself since then. Currently, I'm working with rural towns across Australia with the Operation Next Gen program, and I also speak frequently and run workshops and do research and community engagement. Anything to do with rural towns I love doing, so feel free to contact me if you would like to know more. I always like to start with the why. It's just so important. In a growing world of professionals becoming self-employed and working from home, we sometimes forget that the value of collaboration and working as part of a team. How many times have you posed a problem in casual conversation and someone, usually the least expected one, has a brilliant left field idea? The value of kicking ideas around should never be underestimated, especially when you surround yourself with a diverse group of people. And they don't have to necessarily have business experience to have good ideas, just the ability to think outside the box. A common reason why we collaborate in business is to raise capital. I've been involved in 2 businesses for this reason. The first, I was an active partner in the business, and in the second, I was, and still am, a silent partner, but I do take an active interest. Why wouldn't I? I'm protecting my investment. It could be someone you know, or it could be someone not so well known to you, such as an angel investor. Either way, you need to have a clear agreement and read the fine print. Bringing together complementary skills and resources is another great reason for collaboration. Walt Disney was renowned as an entrepreneur of his time with great vision, but he couldn't have succeeded without the incredible financial management of his brother Roy. While Walt was busy coming up with all his grand ideas, Roy was quietly working away in the background, organising the finance and keeping the budgets on track. At heart, we are pack animals. Collaboration helps share the risk of a business venture. An investment shared is less likely to put your family assets in danger should the business fall over. It's also common to find one partner who is more confident in taking the lead when it comes to public relations, while others are happy to work quietly in the background. The test in these instances is to always remember that you are part of a team and to share the success with everyone. A good business mentor is only too happy to give their support to help up and coming entrepreneurs. Their reputation can be very valuable in attracting investors and customers. So there's a few things to think about on the why. Next is the how. There are just so many ways to collaborate in business. At an informal level, I am always encouraging small businesses to collaborate, particularly when it comes to marketing. It doesn't have to be complicated. For instance, a group of similar or complementary businesses can pool their dollars to make a bigger splash with advertising. Subcontracting is another form of collaboration and works well for similar businesses that have troughs and peaks in their work. In the earth-moving industry, it is common for businesses to collaborate on large tender submissions. One may have to take the lead, but they subcontract with a fellow business to demonstrate they have adequate equipment and personnel to complete the work. In rural businesses, the most common type of partnership is between a husband and wife. Once again, it may be an equal partnership in terms of finance and activity within the business, or it could simply be a named partner. Forming a company requires a bit more paperwork and has a higher rate of tax applied, but there are benefits in that shareholders can join and exit the company, and also in protecting your personal assets. Cooperatives are commonly formed in rural towns. A common scenario is when a local business shuts its doors and a co-op is formed to keep it operating. On the other hand, co-ops are incredibly lucrative worldwide, particularly in superannuation, banking and insurance. In rural areas, we see farmers forming co-ops to store and sell their grain. Once again, there is a fair bit of paperwork involved and a lot of community consultation to get members on board. A bit more on that later. By no means am I an expert in commercial law, so this is indicative only. I recommend you seek professional advice before entering any business contract. Even if it is an informal arrangement, it is well worth putting it down in writing, a memorandum of understanding, or just a simple email, simply so that everyone's expectations are clearly aligned. As everyone knows, I love telling stories, so let's have a look at some examples of collaboration. Some of you might have watched the series Glitch on the ABC, and you might just recognise this building. I walked past the Midland this morning on my way to the gym and popped in to see how an informal collaboration is coming along between two local businesses. Anne, who's on the right, and her husband owned the Midland and run it for boutique accommodation, a jazz bar, cafe, and a men's accessories shop. They have lots of space to fill, so when Jenny was lamenting the fact that she didn't have a retail presence for her dressmaking and millinery business, I suggested that she pop in and have a chat with Anne. They are getting on famously, I am pleased to say. You and Katie Finley have been successfully working the Mount Alexander fruit gardens for decades. Like most agricultural people, there is often an issue when it comes to retiring. They love the land and they don't want to leave, but how can it still remain productive and earn them an income? In usual Katie fashion, she came up with the brilliant idea of advertising their orchard and surrounding land to young people wanting to get started in farming. Not only will they avoid the initial capital costs, they get a couple of pretty good mentors into the bargain. I noticed this post on Facebook about a week ago, I think it was, announcing who they had selected to lease their orchard. So this young man is hitching his way towards Harcourt, and I'm sure it will be a great enterprise for him. What a great collaboration. Family businesses across multi-generations can either be a disaster or a great success. I love this small business from Birchip mainly because it has reinvented itself and drawn the next generation into the management. Daniel McLaughlin left Birchip at an early age and started working in finance in Melbourne. At the time, his parents owned a shearing contracting business, but in the off-season, his dad would go and rip burrows and do bits and pieces around the district with his tractors. When shearing became less palatable as Daniel's dad got older, he decided to grow the business more in this field of work and started picking up contracts for land care groups and the catchment management authorities. Daniel and his brother were duly summoned home, bringing their respective skills with him. His brother previously worked in the mining industry, and together they've consolidated a great new business for Birchip that is attracting work as far away as the Werribee Zoo. Edward and Dale grew up playing football together. As fitness fanatics, they were drawn into the personal trainer industry in Melbourne, but always had a dream of owning a quality gymnasium in their hometown. Together, they had the enthusiasm, the skills, and the time to put into creating a new business called Main Fitness. I might add that an important part of their collaboration was with their landlord, who fitted out the building to meet their requirements. Last year, I stopped in Tambo for lunch and was stunned to find this little business called Tambo Teddies. Other than the cafe and servo, it was just about the only visible business. I'm yet to write the full story of Tambo Teddies, but it is a great one about the partnership of three women, none of who I believe, starting the business and employing locals to work in it. Their retail market is very much online, and Prince William, I believe, received this particular teddy as a gift on behalf of the Australian government and people. When pig growers were faced with escalating feed costs on top of changing import regulations, a group of 5 growers in Kahuna decided to take action. They formed a company specifically to build a feed mill, producing for their own enterprises and selling to other pig growers. It was a huge capital investment for them all. They initially invested a few $1,000s each to fund a feasibility study and test the viability of the idea. It all added up, but I don't think that they even expected how successful it would become. 6 years on, it has significantly reduced their agricultural costs, and the business itself is turning over $20 million a year. It was certainly beneficial that Aga Kingma, pictured here, one of their members, also has accounting skills, and he tells me that they've moved from being a company with liabilities to one having to manage profits. What a nice challenge to have. Communicating with your community, managing their expectations, and having someone to drive the paperwork and registration process is paramount when it comes to forming a cooperative. In many respects, it is just as, if not more, complicated than forming a company. When I chatted with Alison McClelland from Sea Lake, she shared how it was a great moment when they finally got to cut the ribbon and formally open the Sea Lake and District Cooperative Limited. And this was formed to save their hardware store, which had been up for sale but had not been sold. So rather than see it close, they decided they wanted to keep the business local in town. It was really helpful that they, being a grain growing community, they already had great experience and skills within their members of cooperatives and running them. So there are examples of cooperatives in just about every rural town. It is doable, and it is a great option when all other avenues are exhausted and a community doesn't want to lose a valued service. I've been doing some work recently for the Farming Together program, and I encourage you to Google and look at their website because they are very much about collaboration and cooperatives, and there is a cooperative building tool online for any group wanting to take them through that process. It is quite a long process, but very doable, as I said, and can be lucrative. So have a go. Now, it was only a week or two since the 2017 Witchy Proof Cup was run. Sadly, I couldn't get there, but I did notice that the winner was Viandon with Harry Coffey aboard. Only paid out $2.30 on the TAB, so obviously, it was expected to do well. Now, why am I talking about the Witchy Proof Cup? Remember, I said that great ideas grow through collaboration, and sometimes in the most interesting of places. At this point in time, I'd like to invite Ann Durie to come into the conversation. She is one of the owners of Bakery on Broadway, which was recently awarded the Victorian Regional Achievement Award for Business. So welcome, Ann. If you click on your audio button, we can have a
I'm
chat.
here. Thank you, Kerry.
Yeah,
Hey, Kerry, how are you?
I'm good, and thanks for joining us today. What's the weather like in Witchyproof?
It's a bit cool, a bit dull. We've had rain, which we didn't need at this stage, but yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, very much a grain growing area. So, yes, farmers are watching the weather. All right, tell us a little bit about Bakery on Broadway. How did the idea come about, and what has it to do with the Witchyproof Cup? Anne?
Well, it was at the Witchyproof Cup some years back that two couples were having a chat and just saying that we really need a bakery in our town. Our town was not dying, but you know, the same that happens in many regional towns that businesses close. So, and it was after a few champagnes, I might add, but it then that idea from that night, that afternoon, became reality when it was four couples joined together and decided that this dream could become a reality, and we then purchased the building that you can see there
Yeah,
now.
and Anne is on the right, if anyone's wondering which one is Anne.
With the glasses on, there was two of us with glasses on. Um, so it was the old landmark building, but originally the Witchyproof Shire Chambers. The front part there had been added in the 70s. But the building itself is a gorgeous old building, and we thought big enough for what we wanted to achieve, and that was to open a bakery. None of us had any bakery skills whatsoever, but were all we all had you know, we all knew a little bit about things. There was three teachers, two farmers. Um, we've had one with skills with the aged, and myself with a fair bit of retail. So yeah, with our skills, we renovated the building, came up with a lot of surprises, permits, and lots of things we didn't think about at the time, and just took a bit more money than we thought. But finally, after many years, we've opened, and we've been open 18 months.
Fantastic job. And I know whenever I go through Witchyproof, I always see a lineup of cars and people at the bakery. So it's become a very popular stopover place. So you had this idea at the Witchyproof Cup. What was the first thing? I mean, a group of people, great idea. You obviously had to invest a considerable amount of money, not just your time and skills. How did you go about deciding what was the best pathway and the legal structure? What did you have to do to
Uh,
get agreement?
yeah, well, first of all, we got this group together, and then very initially we just bought the building, which wasn't a huge investment, and we were all managed to, you know, share that easily. Then we made a business plan. That was really important to have this plan. We went along, went through, it was one that we found on a website, and just went through each question. Even though we didn't know a lot, we sort of knew what sort of people were passing through and how much some things may be and what we wanted for the business. And with that, we put a budget through, and came up with an amount that was actually not too far away from what we actually had to put money in. So each couple put in a certain amount of money, and we had that to renovate and buy all the equipment.
Good stuff. So did you form a company or did you have a formal business structure? How did you go about deciding
Yeah.
that?
So yeah, we have a trustee for the actual building,
Yes.
and then so a company, and then the bakery itself is a separate entity. So we actually pay rent on the building, just to pay us back as well.
Yeah. So you must have got some legal advice in this process, Anne.
Yeah, we did. We did have a good solicitor looking at different things for us, and accountants. Yeah, we have done a fair bit of research as well online, and talked to different people. But we did have
So
legal
you
advice,
didn't
definitely not that.
just accept the advice given to you, you were actively researching as well, which is really good point, I think. Now,
Yeah, we did.
yeah. Now, there's another lovely little collaboration that happened. Now, as you say, none of you were bakers, but I know that Witchy Proof or the Shire, Bullock Shire, has a really good relationship with a Rotary Club in a suburb of Melbourne. Would you like to just explain how that collaboration benefited the bakery?
Yeah, so Keel or Rotary actually have been involved with our town during the drought, and one of its members, David Burke, was particularly helpful in helping us in our town, and he actually helped us when we were put through $1 a week rent a farmhouse. He came up and brought up people for working bees. He also was a great help with the men's shed and was able to get a lot of tools and excess timbers from people he knew, brought them up to Witchy Proof. And he was always interested in what we were up to. He's remained a friend as well. So when we said we are opening a bakery, he went down. Oh, he lives in Melbourne, obviously, and I sent him on little trips here, there, and everywhere to find some equipment for us, and he found some gates for us. Just at the time he wasn't working, so it gave him something to do as well. So off he'd go doing all the scouting for us, which was absolutely fantastic.
And that's just a reminder, a business in a rural town is so much a community enterprise. Even though it's a private company you've formed, it is to benefit the community. And it's just a lovely collaboration between a city organisation and a rural town. I do love that story. Now, we're getting down to the tough and gritty questions, Anne. Group of people, all you do live in the region together. You all knew each other well before the business. You all brought different skills. Yes, you inserted capital. That was an equal contribution. But I guess your time, your skills can all be perhaps looked at differently, the value of them. How have you been working? What has been really good working together as a team? What's been the successful part about it?
I think before we started, we weren't all, socially, we didn't really hang out with each other. And so it was during the working bees that we got to know everyone. And, we just all do get on really well, and we all accept everyone and accept the skills that they all have and knowledge. So it was just getting everyone together and bringing in what they knew, and I think it's just really worked very well. Not everyone, as you say, works in the business all the time, but every weekend one of the couples is on. So when you're working as a couple the weekend, you don't get paid. And these are things we had to come up with, working out along the way. It just means that you're there, the men are there washing dishes, putting on pies, and the women are out the front. So it works out to one weekend a month. It wasn't always that way, but now we've done that. We're finding we get time off. And initially it was Amanda and I and Nikki part-time, and Christine, mainly the women working in the shop. Amanda and I were working full-time, and we decided at meetings that after a while anyone that worked in the business during the week would be paid, and at the weekends we work for nothing.
Yep. So it's a clear agreement about who does what and when.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And we send out, or I send out emails. I'm the one that works there now not most of the time, 2 or 3 days a week. Pop in probably every day. We have a manager now, and our workload has gone down enormously over the time as we've been able to employ more.
So how are you feeling? You're how many years into is it 2 or 3 years now? It might be just 2.
No, yes, not quite 2. So 18 months.
How are you feeling? Has it been a good decision?
It has been a really good decision. It's really made a difference to the town. Our town looks busy. We're very much about supporting our town as well. All our meat is bought from our local butcher, best meat around. And anything else that we need, if we can purchase it in town, we do. And that's what we're about. It's not just for us, it's for the whole town. So the whole town also benefits from people stopping, because they do have a little wander and go into some of the other businesses and, buy things. I do work in another business in the town, and often when people come in, I say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And they say, "Oh, we've been over to the bakery," and I ask them, "How was that?" Not telling them who I am, so I'm able to get a bit of feedback. A bit cheeky.
So that's the good part about the business. What has been the challenge with the 4 different couples in the business? How have you managed that? There has to be challenges at different points, particularly when you were working so hard to get started.
Yeah, I think one of probably the most difficult thing was the number of hours that each couple, I suppose, could put in to getting the business going initially. And we knew that a lot of the men wouldn't be able to help out very often, or 2 of them, during harvest or sowing. But along the way there's been a few arguments. There's been times when, we haven't liked what someone else has liked, so we're all still friends, and we still, I think now that we have a manager, it's probably a lot easier. She's able to then, make a decision, or if it's something else, with me being there most of the time, I'll make a few decisions, and I think most of hopefully all the others are happy with that. But you're always thinking of the business and always thinking of its success, and just wanting it to work, and you enjoy hearing the praise and things. Yeah, staffing has also been a challenge as well, finding the right staff, but we've done that.
Excellent.
All good.
It would have been helpful too that some of the group did have some existing business skills, maybe not a bakery, but obviously farming, trucking, you have to manage businesses. So that would have been a good addition to the group as well.
Absolutely. Christine, the principal, she manages the school, so she had a lot of business skills there as well.
Excellent. Well, I just say congratulations. It's one of the best rural success stories I've seen. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us today. And I do encourage everyone, when you're travelling along the Calder Highway, past Charlton into Wycheproof on your way to whether it's Sea Lake or Mildura, make sure you plan a stop at the bakery on Broadway in Wycheproof. It's and you can look around and you'll know the story behind the business, which is a fabulous one. So,
thanks, Kerry.
Yeah, just stay with us for a moment. I just hope that all of these case studies have been of interest, and I've tried to select a variety for today's webinar. In closing, I'd just like to remind everyone of what I think, and I'm sure there's many more, but a few success factors when collaborating in business. Working with any group of people, it is just so important to recognise your strengths and your weaknesses, and we just heard a little bit about that with Anne. Write it down. Even in informal partnerships, it is easy for expectations to be disappointed. And this especially applies to family members and friends. We don't want to ruin those friendships. And don't forget to communicate. When we get caught up with running a business, it is so easy to forget to let our partners and members know what is happening. In the digital era, this shouldn't be a problem. But hey, just a notice on the notice board is helpful too. And finally, have an exit plan. This tip came from Agar Kingmer of Pentagon Feeds. What would happen if the company hadn't gone so well and one of the partners wanted their investment back? What if they retired and suddenly Pentagon Feeds wasn't useful to them anymore? That scenario was carefully thought through at the very early stages of forming that company. So you have to think through to the end. Really important factors when you are collaborating. So that's all I have to say on that topic today, but we have 2 more webinars to conclude Global Entrepreneurship Week. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we have Establishing an Entrepreneurial Ecosystem, and our special guest is from Kahuna, Operation Next Gen program. And on Sunday, 3 o'clock, it is our Q&A session and wrap-up of Global Entrepreneurship Week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I hope to see you again.